And hello, everyone. This is the launch of a brand new podcast called What She Said. My name is Missy Crutchfield. I am with bmagazine.org, along with my partner in this project, in the magazine, and in the podcast, Melissa Turner, also with bmagazine.org. Melissa's going to say a few things in a minute, but just let me talk about the launch here. We are on location here at the magnificent Wild Goose Festival. This podcast, What She Said, today's program, will be on YouTube, will be on bmagazine.org, as well as the Wild Goose Festival website. And this podcast is also part of the Wild Goose Goosecast Network, which is a network of faith-based podcasts discussing issues of inclusion and social justice. If you want to learn more about the Wild Goose Festival, and you really should, it's amazing here, just please go to wildgoosefestival.org. We're going to talk about really what inspired What She Said, because there's so much going on now about the importance of women's work, about the rise of the feminine, about, of course, taking care of Mother Earth. She's a woman too. And just what our mothers, our sisters, what women are saying today, what we're fighting for. It seems like we've made so much ground over the years, but then we've just lost so much recently, and it can be a little frightening. But we've got to have courage and stand strong and move from a heart-spaced place, which is really what women do best. But let me go ahead and toss it to my partner here. I like to say in crime, but it's really in good trouble, honoring John Lewis. Melissa Turner, go ahead and say a few things.
Yeah, so this is pretty exciting to be launching live here at Wild Goose Festival. Of course, we're recording this very first episode of What She Said. And you'll be able to find it on bmagazine.org next week, September 2. It's a Tuesday. We'll be putting it out on bmagazine.org. We'll be putting it out on social media and other podcasting networks. So stay tuned on September 2. You'll get to see this session and spread the word.
So what the show is going to be about is, yes, focusing on the importance of what, women we know or have read or heard or historically or contemporarily have done, are doing in the world, but also we want to honor our brothers and their messages and sharing of what they have been inspired by women, by actions that have changed the way that they've thought or acted in favor of justice and compassion and just caring and community. So with us today, we have guests, a dear friend of ours, Anna Galladay. Anna and I ran last year for office. We did really, really well, got great feedback. I think we were still victorious, but of course, looking at the state of politics in this country right now, if you are anything near the left or progressive, it's going to be really, really hard to win, particularly in a hard red state like Tennessee, where Anna and I were. Oof. But we won because we won through sharing ideas, through having conversations, through telling people the truth and talking about how we have more in common than we do in differences. So this campaign really brought Anna and I's friendship closer together. And if you haven't been to her t-shirt stand or checked out her t-shirt, I think I've got like 10 every year. I buy 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I'm just so thankful for her and her messages. So this is Anna Galladay.
Thank you, Missy. I am honored to be here, especially at the launch of this amazing show. I am Anna Galladay. I am from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I consider myself a faith leader in the work, as well as an entrepreneur, a small business, woman-owned, woman-created, woman-produced, woman sweat equitied business in Tennessee. As Missy said, I ran for office this past year and am really, really proud of my first time. It was something that I enjoyed way more than I thought I would, and I'm ready to do it again already, which is bizarre to say considering how exhausted I was when it was all said and done. But I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm honored that you asked me to be a part of this as someone who recognizes that the energy that has fueled and guided the good work in this world has always been an energy that is more feminine than not. And even, going back to my Christian roots of, knowing that the good trouble that our sister Eve got into in the garden, we have been and are doing the work of reconciliation and the work of antagonization all at the same time. And I think that that's the work that we as women have been called to do from the beginning.
Absolutely. And the name, if you're wondering how the name happened, I have been an activist for really most of my life. My father was huge in the civil rights movement. He was the Senate Majority Leader for the state of Tennessee. He brought the first African American man onto the floor of the Tennessee General Assembly and always had female campaign managers. And so my, working for him, working in his campaign, really leading. And so my image was seeing this strong, powerful, amazing man who dedicated his life to lifting up all people. But his passion was African American politics and lifting up, because I was the most oppressed where we were in the South. But so I got to see this man lifting up women and supporting women and the strength of women. Of course, he was raised by women, his grandmother, his aunt. So, his model was women leading and women raising him. So I'm very grateful for that experience. But I was I became aware of an issue called FGM, female genital mutilation, many, many years ago. And I was also in Eve Ensler's play, The Vagina Monologues. And so I remember going to my dad when he was majority leader. He died in 2016, and saying, Dad, I call him Ward sometimes. I said, Congress, all these white guys are sitting on their hands. They're not saying, we need to make this illegal in America. We don't do this horrific procedure to women, our daughters, to sisters, our mothers. This shouldn't happen here, and why aren't they changing it? Well, of course, it wasn't important for those guys. But he said, okay, honey, you bring the information and I'll look at it. So within a few months, he said, yeah, we're gonna write a bill. So he authored, sponsored the bill to outlaw FGM in Tennessee, because at that point I think 2 other states had. And then when it was getting ready to go on the floor, 2 of the most powerful senators and representatives in the Tennessee General Assembly marched in his office, and Thelma Harper and Louis DeBerry, and said, who was Senate Speaker Pro Tem in the House, and said, Ward, we love you, but we want to take primary sponsorship on this. And so how honored he was and how excited I was. It passed overwhelmingly across the Tennessee General Assembly, and then a couple other states were coming in. Finally, Congress is like, well, we better do this. Because in this country, we don't do this to our women. We don't do this to our girls. It doesn't matter if there's one or none. We send a message, period. So then, speaking a few years later and sharing this story and some other things at a conference with an organization that finds surgeries for women who have experienced FGM. And so we were all on a stage in DC, outside. It was a beautiful day, and then we were going to do a march. And when I came up to speak, all of the women before had such poignant, such important points, such inspiring stories, that I said, really, I just want to start with what she said, and what she said, and what she said. And then I thought, this is really something that we need to move forward, and it's honoring what she said in the past, whether alive or no longer here, or here presently, or our daughters. We need to listen and encourage, inspire, and speak these words. What she said, yes. Let's listen and pay attention to it. So I'm to our women and to our men, because this is all, everything ripples out, the good and the bad, it's all contagious. So we want to be contagious with the good. We want to share the good stories. We want to speak truth to power, and then just amplify together. It's all about community. It's happening on a grassroots level. That's really how it's going to happen. It's always one person, and then becomes many, and we speak our truth. 2 other dear friends of ours, and we're going to talk about activism too, because more and more in our work with BeMagazine.org, with Sisters Speak Out, which is an activism-based play, with our partners, and 2 of our partners are here who started a group several years ago. They are in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the most consistent group over the years, every Monday from 4:30 to 5:30. Just show up, pick a sign. They do have themes, but you can find a sign and hold it 1 hour. And it's just really been kind of a staple, and it's inspired so many other groups to get busy, to get active, and to do their own thing, which is really exciting. We're seeing people that want to go deeper with issues that may have been part of a larger group, now kind of taking off on their own. Gun violence is one that recently is happening in Chattanooga. We've got women's marches, we've got democracy in action marches. So people are just really coming together and finding their way and their truth, and then collectively we join. So right now I want to introduce my dear friends Judith Peterson Ben and Dave Ben. Judith may be representing both, I don't know, but she's got an amazing story. Right here again, I'm going to welcome you to our launch of our podcast, What She Said, right here in North Carolina, Statesville at the Wild Goose Festival. You can find more information and all of the information about the speakers and the cool stuff happening. Go to wildgoosefestival.org. Judith, take it.
Thank you, Missy. One of the things I want to say about my partner Dave, and I may get him up here in a minute, is that when we met, we were doing grassroots organizing, and we were at a university, and everywhere we have lived since then, we have done grassroots organizing. And so that's been for many years. In Chattanooga, it's been 7, maybe going on 8 years. And I just like to say, I think grassroots organizing is for everyone. You may think it's intimidating. However, it's a wonderful way to build community. We all love each other after all these years. We look forward to seeing each other. We look forward to carrying our signs and having people honk or affirm that we're doing this. We see it as a form of education. People don't necessarily have the time to pay attention. So we're out there on the street corner with our signs, and people notice. It's also a way to affirm participatory democracy. That's what democracy is, folks. It's not just sitting and watching what's happening. It's getting involved. So when you're out on the street corner, you're actually witnessing what is happening in the world right now. And we're encouraging people to wake up, to look at what are these issues that we're protesting. Gun violence, democracy, equality, and places where inequality is surfacing. It challenges us in many ways to do this. We put our bodies at risk. You never know whenever the military or police might possibly treat you roughly. You never know when someone might take a pot shot. So there is a risk involved, but it's a risk that involves living your life out loud. So, Dave, would you like to come up here? No, he's not going to do it. Okay. Well, one way to build solidarity where you are right now is to start a group, go out, have someone who's dedicated to be there. They'll be there every time you stand out, and others will join you.
Judith, I also want you to share one of my favorite things about Judith is she went to clown college. I love that. I wish I could have gone. I was fascinated because I went to Florida State for a little while. I grew up in Florida. I was born in Chattanooga, and I always was just like, how cool is that? So share your experience and how you're tying that in to your activism and guerrilla theater.
Yes, well, guerrilla theater is a wonderful way to show what's going on in the world. So we'll share more about that later when we get some more going. I do what's called humanitarian clowning. It's a way to bring joy to the world, because if you're going to do the hard work of demonstrating, and sometimes we do it 3 or 4 times a week, so it's not just a one-time thing. You got to have joy in your life. You got to laugh. You've got to understand that the two go together. So I love to clown and make people smile, and my heart gets warmed when I do that too. And I'm in it for the long haul. And if you're going to be in it for the long haul, you have to find ways to keep yourself going.
You have to have fun, and you really, I've been in civil rights, growing up with my father, and then from there I took it to animal rights, and then climate justice, environmental justice, taking care of the planet, then human rights, and we've been focusing on the Middle East a lot. And it's wonderful because when you open yourself up to activism and broaden your horizon, expand your consciousness, all sorts of things. You start realizing, wow, sentient beings, the earth, the Gaia hypothesis as a living thing, human beings, just wherever you, whether you disagree or not, I'm not going to hate them. Is that going to help? No, I'm going to try to meet them where they are and discuss things and let them know I'm human, I respect you, I care about you, which these things, these phones and all of our technology, it's neutral. It could be great or it could be not so great. Unfortunately, lately, these last few years, because of social media, it's gone sort of on a downward spiral. But by talking to people, by speaking to people with respect, by sharing messages or not engaging in something negative, but trying to, is a way to diffuse it. But let's put the phones down maybe more and have real-time conversations, starting with our family, maybe even at the dinner table. But, I would like to talk about activism, and Anna, maybe you want to chime in on this, because what we're hearing more, and I've been involved in several groups. I co-founded a group, a women's rights group, and one of the things most people were excited about is that they want to learn how to be an activist. So I feel like we're at a crossroads, a beautiful crossroads of people wanting to know, how do I become an activist?
It's so funny that's the way that folks kind of lean into the work as adults, because I think as children, we kind of come out of the womb fighting. We come out with this angst and this lack of knowing like how to self-regulate and how to kind of engage in this world that is foreign to us. And as children, many of our parents kind of taught us to stand up for ourselves, to not be bullies, to be kind, to share our toys. And we have all these kind of constructs of kindness built into our childhood, and so much of that gets lost as we enter into adulthood. Coming back to ourselves as activists, I think we are all born as activists. It's then allowing ourselves to embrace that piece of ourselves and get out of our own way and not be afraid to kind of move into public spaces in ways that we really should have been from the beginning. I've been doing work around queer rights specifically since the mid-90s, and my activism really began in being a cis hetero person who was disgusted with the way my, at that point, primarily gay and lesbian friends were being treated. If those of you, some of you may know my name, but I am one of the pastors in the United Methodist tradition who lost their credentials because I presided over a same-gender wedding in 2018, and I still have not been invited back to my pastoral role, even though the United Methodist Church now has finally kind of severed itself from the conservative side of the denomination. But being in the street really was the same for me as being in the pulpit in many instances, because I really believed that the work that I was called to do was to be someone who was speaking truth to power. And if I was going to live and walk and be in this white body, this body that looked as though it came from every bit of privilege that other white bodies do, that I needed to put my money where my mouth was and put my body where my brain was, and that meant being in the streets. Probably the most impactful piece of activism that I've ever been engaged in is I was one of the 40 faith leaders that held the line in Charlottesville. And I was there on the day that the white supremacists and the Proud Boys marched with tiki torches and surrounded the church, and marched with theologians like Cornel West and Tracy Blackman, and just kind of brilliant black leaders who have kind of taught me and shown me how to be Jesus in embodied form. And being in that space and being surrounded by so much hate really, kind of to Judith's point, kind of illustrates the ways in which we have to be willing to catch the stones. One of my favorite lines is from a friend, Stan Mitchell, who has said that being an ally or being an advocate is only what you're doing if you are standing in front of the person who the stones are being hurled at, if you are the one that is actually being hit by the stones, so that they aren't. That's really what being an ally or an advocate or an activist or an agitator should look like. And I think that those of us with privilege and those of us that identify as able-bodied and kind of willing to put ourselves in those spaces can and must do so. One, for those that can't, two, for those that won't, and three, for those that are curious to do so, but for whatever reason, whether it's fear or kind of lack of access, just have not yet.
So, what she said. There we are. I mean, it's amazing when you sit back and think about it throughout your day and you hear someone say, yes, what she said. You don't have to, repeat it. You can share it. Yes, I'm so honored to have such an amazing friend with such a powerful message and such courage. And she's going to run again. And she and I both hit some real walls because there's some real meanness and some real hatred. I've had stuff done to my car. I've had stuff said to me, and some of the most hateful messages on our web pages, just because we're talking about love and compassion and not following this whole line of hate and division and judgment. And it's like, I won't stop saying it, but you wonder when how many times I've said those bracelets, WWJD. What is that, JD? What does that mean to you? What would Jesus want to do this to an immigrant? Would Jesus want to do this to a homeless? Jesus was homeless. He was an immigrant. And yet, but we can look at what happened in Nazi Germany, and I just watched Bonhoeffer for the second time recently, and you're like, it's a little frightening, but we know that we are standing with truth. We know that we are on the right side of history, and we are speaking out, and we will not do any less. And I have moments of reflecting, what if I didn't do this? I would be miserable. I would feel like I'm not living my purpose. I'm not living authentically. We have X amount of days, all of us on this earth. I want to live every one that I can with as much authenticity, integrity, compassion, and joy. We've got to find the happiness, yes, that we're talking about, because nobody wants to come up to you if you're looking miserable all the time, so just share the joy.
Well, and I think it's also important, the three of us on these microphones identify as able-bodied and as willing to kind of put our bodies in the streets and willing to kind of be people who are frontline kind of people. And also, I have dear friends who are neurodivergent or are otherly abled or are homebound, who have disabilities that limit their kind of capacity to be in the heat or to be in the cold. And activism is not only a contact sport.
Right.
There are so many ways that we can kind of antagonize the system. And I think it's important that even though, for the first kind of 20 minutes of this conversation, we have named the ways in which embodiment can and should be in the fight, there is as much work to be done on our phones and through our letter writing and in our social justice activism. And in simply sitting with others and telling stories and having hard conversations and being people who are just simply not willing to allow the perceptions of others to kind of get in our way. And so I just wanted to kind of pause for a second to make sure that we were also naming that activism in itself doesn't simply have to be
marching,
the way that we kind of put our bodies on our feet and move into the space. There's so much more that can and should be done too.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of something that we started and recently partnered with Judith and Dave of Standing Out. And Judith is here sitting, and Melissa, we're going to bring her up. She's the fourth person, but she's handling the camera on this. Melissa Turner, my partner with bmagazine.org, and really all that we do. It's a labor of love, but when you get in this, you just feel so good. It's so exciting. But I mentioned earlier in the introduction that human rights is also something we've done focused on the Middle East. I had the honor of joining several years ago a group, Center for Jewish Nonviolence, that is pretty much an umbrella for lots of progressive, left to medium Jewish groups from JVP, that's probably Jewish Voice for Peace, the most progressive, to If Not Now, and J Street. And the big message then was we realized that we may be very different, but we believe in a free Palestine. We believe in Palestinian human rights, and we've all got to start getting along, because the rest of the world, and AIPAC is huge, and AIPAC to a large degree is on these issues is running Congress, and it's pretty scary, and they've owned the narrative. So we, through speaking power and sharing messages, attending, so I was able to go. We met in Jerusalem several years ago, and then went into Bethlehem, and then went into South Hebron to very similar camps. And so recently there was a movie that won an Academy Award, a documentary called No Other Land, and the story is so powerful. It's you're speechless after the movie. So we're having screenings because you're not allowed. They have not had the rights to show this in a theater in America. Again, this is AIPAC. You can see it in a theater in Europe. But I Googled in somewhere in Miami, they tried to show it in a theater. They got sued and shut down the theater. So we're like, our resistance is having house parties and showing the film. I reached out to Judith and Dave. They have a beautiful home, and they're like, this is why we have this home, so we can have these events, so we can have these showings. So we've had 3 so far, and now people are starting to say we want to host one, and so we're sharing the video. And Judith and Dave have a Blu-ray player, because you can't get the DVD in the American zone, but we can fortunately get a Blu-ray. Only been able to find it on eBay. I mean, they're buying them up. It's really interesting the way they've shut this down. But they recently, the last one was at Judith and Dave's house, and the conversation. So this is activism. It is resistance. Judith, you want to share some of your feelings about that part of activism?
You know, there are many ways to be active. I guess I would just like to encourage everyone to try one of them. See how you feel. See if it works for you. Everyone isn't going to stand out. For me and Dave, I'll try to speak for him, it's enlivening. It's an opportunity for us to put our values in action, and like I believe you said earlier, live with integrity. We all want to live with integrity, and right now, if you can stand up and be an activist in any way, it builds integrity.
Melissa had a meeting at her house. I had the first one at mine. We had several people from the mosque. I do want to say about the election, Anna, because I think this benefited all of us. We went to the mosque, and we have many friends because we've been working on the Israel-Palestine, Free Palestine issue, as well as Free Egypt, because there's a whole lot of humanitarian issues there where the dictator Sisi is. And so we went to the mosque during election, and they just so warmly, they invited us for dinner. Some of the most beautiful people. And they organized and got 3,000 people registered. First-time voters, most of them, and organized buses and went to the polls. So I was so excited, and they're always like, yes, and we said we want to show this. So they've invited, after we have our house parties, maybe we're the only one, Anna, for the hosting, they want to have everybody to the mosque for dinner and a fellowship, meet your Muslim neighbor, and things like that. I also want to say Melissa had one at her house, and she might share about this in a little while. We're going to throw it to anybody that in our audience if they want to share a story about what she said, a woman or someone in your life that inspired you, if you wanted to say a few words about that, because this is celebrating the power of women, whether it's a man sharing something about a woman who inspired them, changed the way that they thought, or just women sharing, bonding together that we do so well. But Melissa has, she invited a group she's a part of a very progressive group within the Adventist church. So the Adventist, like all the other churches, is very split. But this group in particular really stands in resistance to a lot of the wave of what's happening that's sinking faith and compassion in all churches. And this group, and they're called Bridge Builders, and I just love them. Last summer they had 2 showings of How to Sue the Klan, which happened in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We've had 2 things that have gone to the Supreme Court from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I learned from that. It was at Johnson, the lynching, which there was the stay, but then the mob killed him. And then How to Sue the Klan, the criminal, the jurors, it was rigged. They were all white, and they, of course, were going to vote to give nothing to the African-American women who suffered and were shot. But they went back. They went to New York. New York, some of the lawyers for civil rights, and said, no, we can do this, a civil rights case, and won.
You know, it's so interesting. Chattanooga is such a curious place to me. Up until 2021, Chattanooga was the most churched city in the country. And which, you know, is an interesting moniker to claim. When I first heard someone kind of shout that out, I thought, like, things we're proud of? Question mark. I wasn't exactly certain, you know, whether it was something that we should own or not own.
Interesting. Is it a good church or a bad church?
Exactly. Interestingly enough, when COVID entered the picture, Chattanooga lost that moniker, and surprisingly enough, now the most church city in the country is very surprising to me. It's New York City.
Really?
New York City took over Chattanooga as the most church city, but what it always said to me from a kind of buckle of the Bible Belt location is that, you know, we are a city that is full of opinion and full of ethic around whatever it is that we believe, and yet we are not folks that have historically acted on that. The two Supreme Court cases were the antithesis of that. They kind of broke the mold when it came to Chattanooga kind of being the city that it said it claimed it to be, and yet they both happened so long ago that, you know, in the last 35 to 40 years, we don't have much to hang our hat on. We have not been a city that has really kind of taken the moniker of being the most churched and also identified ourselves as the most faithful. Being one is very different than being the other.
Yes. I know lately, over the last few years, I've just simply said I'm not Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. And it was crazy. It's gotten more people now are nodding and embracing that than they were a few years ago. You'd see this. I worked with Mahatma Gandhi's grandson for several years and got to experience the tour retracing his footsteps in India as well as in South Africa where it all started. And he would share stories with me, and his life was really about, and his books were about sharing stories of his grandfather, Mahatma Gandhi, because he moved in because he was a troubled kid in South Africa. So his father was running the ashram there, continuing when Mahatma left to go back to India for the Quit India, the independence movement. So he's like, take him. He's just fighting all the time in South Africa, and so it's like he's too white to be black, he's too brown to be white, so he was getting bullied all the time. His grandfather's like, go back to India and stay with your grandfather. So he was 12 years old then, so it was really, really a formative time, but also those last 2 years were when all the stuff happened and it impacted him, and so he understood that his life was about sharing the stories and the message of Mahatma Gandhi. So he would say, when people would ask him, are you Hindu? He was born Hindu, of course. Or are you Jewish, or are you Christian? Because his message people couldn't figure out, and he's like, yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am. And I loved that. So yeah, I'm a follower of Christ. Judith, you said that you wanted to share a story. I know Joyce in the audience would like to say a few things. I want you to share your story, and then maybe we can toss it because we've got a little more than 10 minutes left in this. You want to share your story, and then we're going to listen to Joyce and anyone else from our audience that would like to say something about what she said.
What she says. Okay, I guess I wanted to share a personal story, if that's okay. Is that in the process of learning how to stand up and stand out and speak my truth, I changed as a person. And I don't think that is an unusual story. I have seen a lot of the people who have joined us through the years. They're changing. They're much more confident. They have a lot more compassion because we follow Gandhi's guidance when we stand out. You know, we're peace-loving.
Yes.
And I think that personal growth is an outcome of standing up for what you truly believe in. That's been true in my life, and I've seen it in others too.
And this is deliberately kind of a vague in what she said, because this is about lifting the voices of, yes, people that we may know and love and who have a lot of notoriety, but it's it's empowering the average person, the average voice, because this is where the change happens on the grassroots. What she said. So share your messages, share the information that we have on the program. Come visit Wild Goose. Listen to the rise of the voices of women, and see how it's affecting the men. We all have masculine and feminine in us, and the rise of the feminine just means that we will have the ability through this movement to lift up our brothers, to lift up our husbands, our fathers, our partners, our women. And together, this is the only way that we win, is together. It's the only way we protect each other, is by joining movements and courageously standing together. Build communities, strong communities for truth, and speak out. Joyce with the Wild Goose Festival, she's going to come up and share something here with us. Thank you.
Well, I would just say I'm a fellow podcaster, not necessarily with Wild Goose Festival, but I'm so thankful to be a part of Wild Goose Festival. And having listened to each of your stories, wow, what she said. So I just wanted to comment on a few things. First of all, Judith and Dave, wow. I love the idea of setting a time, telling people they can grab a sign. They don't even have to get out their stencils, right? They can just get out there. You're making it easy. Thank you. Because that's so impressive. The idea that you have been committed to that and are making that visibility happen. I love it so much. And Anna, wow, you ran.
I did.
Thank you.
And she's going to run again.
Yeah, better yet. Having been raised in the United Methodist Church by someone from Detroit, Michigan, cradle to grave Methodist, my mom would have celebrated the day that they started splitting. That was always such a challenge. So thank you for your civil disobedience of making that happen. As part of the queer community who is married to a woman, I never joined a United Methodist Church, which I think made my mom cry about 3 times, because I kept going to confirmation and I kept not joining, and finally I just said, here's why. If I can't marry people and bury people, I'm not going to do it. So thank you for your work. And then I wanted to add, Melissa, thank you for being part of Bridge Builders. I've never heard of that, and I'm so glad to learn that exists. That is fantastic. And part of what impresses me about Wild Goose, so thank you for launching your podcast here, is the number of people from a variety of faith backgrounds willing to come here and talk about however the Spirit leads them. So thanks for bringing that to the table. And wow, Missy?
Yes.
Okay, I got it right. I'm sorry. And before you sign off today, I hope that you'll again share everyone's names, share again how to find you and when to find you, because I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to log in and actually see everyone too. But the sort of civil work that you've done and that your father and grandfather did, wow. That's just quite the heritage. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to note, I work with 2 organizations that are anti-censorship groups. I work with the Free and Bereaved Foundation. We do First Amendment education, litigation, and advocacy. And there have been so many situations in the last year when private groups have signed up to use the meeting room at their library and they want to show no other land. And there's been a large international effort to shut it down.
Right.
And it has been repeatedly happening. And the idea that just hearing that a group of people have a right to live in their own homeland without facing starvation or being killed is mind-blowing. It's like,
genocide.
why can people not hear this. And so I'm glad you raised that. But again, just thank you to each of you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for launching the podcast here. And I love it. I love I'm with her, but I love what she said. So thank you.
Joyce, thank you. And what Joyce said, what she said, it's so important, sharing stories. This is, throughout history, before writing, it was stories were sung, stories were shared, circles and women's circles and matriarchal. It was sharing stories and compassion. I remember I went to a store to get some vegan protein powder. The woman that was running the store was Iranian, and I started talking to her about politics in the Middle East. I said, it's just, if women could get together and just have tea, and she said, no, we need to cook a meal together. And I thought, yes. And so it's interesting because at every one of our hostings of the showings of No Other Land, we introduce each other, whether they're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, there, and we talk, but there's also food. We're sharing food. I remember at the one I had at my house, I had these amazing vegan chicken tenders, and other people are like, this is crazy. Our Muslim brothers and sisters, they were like, where did you get these? This is great. So we're sharing food together, we're sharing ideas together, and compassion and love and unity and solidarity. It's like a miracle though, and we've got a few more minutes, and I want to introduce, let everybody, kind of wrap it up. But at the end of the first one, there was an imam there that said he's going to share the film, information about the film and the group, that what's happening with the hosting, with 25,000 imams around the country, even around the world, and that will ripple out. So that's the first one. The second one got shared then on social media with, I think we're over 50,000 hits now on social media. The last one at Judas, we got video and shared. We got 3 people from there talking about, and then on social media, I'm getting messages, I want this, I want to do this too. What I didn't get to tell you, Judith, is just yesterday, I got a message from Center for Jewish Nonviolence that I was in Israel, Palestine doing human rights work with, and they said that the success of the parties around the country, maybe even around the world, but I know you can show it in the UK now, has been so overwhelming, because we even wrote the producers trying to get rights to show this in a public space at a church or something, not necessarily a theater, and they said we can't, but they're going to send a link. So we will not only have to tell people to try to find the last one on eBay, because when I checked there were only 2 or 3 left. I just bought 4 more. They said they're going to share the link. So on Sunday night, I'm going to be on an international call with them, and they're going to tell us how to share the link. So this is spreading. We're spreading the word. We are the resistance. Melissa, did you want, if we're going to go around and just kind of wrap it up? No, would you like, okay. We got a shy one here, but thank you for being here in our audience. If you want to just talk a little bit more, again, a shout out to Bridge Builders. They are so great and so amazing. They went from just a handful of people to now, like, students are joining, it's 40, 50, and growing. So if you want to just get 3-4 minutes to close.
Yeah, it is exciting to see all these different groups growing, and like we've been talking about, on the ride up here to the festival, it's all about community. That's what activism is about, and we've got Standing Out, we've got Bridge Builders, we've got the mosque and the Muslim community. We have all these different groups coming together, working together, and doing the work, and that's what it's all about. And just once again, check out on bmagazine.org what she said. It'll be published there on the front page. We'll also have a feature on becoming an activist. We're putting together a toolkit with ways that people can get involved. So stay tuned.
And we'll have partner links and linking to Wild Goose and other folks that we're meeting here. We're like, we'd love to have your information on. We've got a wonderful group here that's Death Penalty Action. And so we're going to cross-pollinate, share links with each other. So bmagazine.org it's a portal to find ways to get involved with whatever your issue is and what organization that you feel drawn to, and find it there. Anna, how can they find you?
I can be found on socials at Unholy Heretic. That's Hair. If you know me in person, you know that that's what I'm known for. So Unholy Heretic. And at annagalladay.com, you'll find everything about my future political aspirations and where you can find me. Thanks again for having me. We are made better by those that we surround ourselves with. And I'm continually grateful that Missy, you keep inviting me and asking me into the circle.
We love you.
And I, as a reminder, what she said is only getting started, and I'm excited to see where this heads.
And you'll be back. Judith?
I just want to say, I don't have a website or anything, but let's bring women's ways into today. We do things differently. We do things well. I would invite all of you, male and female, to start listening up. Have a house party.
Excellent. And you can find us on social media. Anna, your spelling of your name, in case you're wondering, go ahead.
ANNAGOLLADAY.com.
.com. There you go. Judith and Dave, the Standing Out organization, you can find out more on bmagazine.org. We'll be having a little banner and information to stay up with what they're doing. And again, we're really going to be focusing a lot on the show, What She Said, on how to become an activist, how to build your community, and how to co-create a better world, a safer world, and a healthy planet together. I'm Missy Crutchfield and Melissa Turner from bmagazine.org, right here live at the Wild Goose Festival in North Carolina, and you can find them at wildgoosefestival.org, as well as hear this podcast and so much more. Thank you, God bless you, and get out there and get active.